Hi everyone, this is lesson number 7 from class 11, Birth, which has been taken from The Citadel, written by A.G. Cronin. Now, Birth is a story which has a setting in Welsh mining town, Blinelly. And this is a story of Andrew Manson. He's a doctor. He helps Joe Morgan and his wife Susan Morgan in delivering a baby. He helps in the birth of first child of Joe Morgan and Susan Morgan. If we see the story, it can be divided into 4 parts. First is when Andrew Manson, he goes with Joe Morgan because his wife is expecting a baby and she is in labor pain. Second part is about his waiting out there and his thoughts about marriage. Third is about his delivery and treatment. And fourth, the birth and the relief after that. So let's see the story. First part is about Andrew Manson, how he goes with Joe Morgan. Now Andrew Manson, he reached Barangawa. That means the place where he stays and where his surgery is, at midnight around 12 o'clock after meeting his girlfriend Christine. And at that time, Joe Morgan is waiting for him. Why? Because his wife needs this doctor before her appointed time. She's in pain. She's expecting a baby. So they both go to 12 Lena Terrace. Joe stays out of the house. He doesn't come in. He tells the doctor to go inside. And since he is nervous and anxious, he's pacing up and down the street. So Andrew, he goes upstairs. He goes in a small bedroom where Mrs. Morgan's mother and a midwife are waiting for them. He checks Susan Morgan, and Morgan's mother is a grey-haired old woman of 70 years. She's stout, she's very wise and experienced. She's worried as there is still some time left for birth and this doctor might leave in between. But the doctor, although he's tired, he decides to wait there. He goes and have tea downstairs. Then he comes up again, checks Susan, and then goes back and sits by the kitchen fire. While he's sitting there, his thoughts are very heavy and untidy. He thinks of his friends who are in difficult relationship. For example, Bramwell, who is devoted to a lady who is deceiving him. Then he thinks of Edward Page, who is dealing with a bad-tempered woman. Denny, who is living an unhappy life. He thinks of marriage as an idyllic state, a complete state of happiness and bliss. But he is obsessed by an incident that has taken place before this at Cardiff Station with his girlfriend Christine. It was an unpleasant and disappointed meeting. So he's confused about marriage and he's even doubtful. At that time, his thoughts were interrupted by the mother who is sitting with him in the kitchen. She tells the doctor that Susan said not to give her the chloroform if it would harm the baby, because they have been waiting for this baby for the past 20 years. And the doctor tries to console this old woman that it is not unsafe for the child. The nurse calls him at 3:30, and after a very long struggle for almost 1 hour, at 4:30, a child is born. But he is lifeless. And now there's a dilemma in front of the doctor. He has mother as well as child with him, and he's in a dilemma whether to save mother first or the child. So he decides to first revive the mother because Susan has collapsed. So he treats her first. He gives her an injection very quickly to revive her heartbeat, and she's safe. He moves towards the child. He checks the baby. The baby is lifeless, white, very soft, and perfectly formed. But there is no motion in him. So he starts the treatment. He asks for 2 bowls of hot water and cold water, and he starts dipping the child in hot water and then in cold water, one after the other. And he keeps on juggling between 2 bowls for 15 minutes. He's sweating, he's tired. He realizes it's a case of asphyxia, that means shortage of oxygen in the body. And after 15 minutes, even the midwife tells him to stop, as she knows that the child is stillborn, that means dead at birth. But he keeps on doing his part. He also uses a special method of respiration. He rubbed his back. Then he suddenly remembers how he has seen a case in Samaritan, and he takes a towel, rough towel, and rubs the back of the baby with the towel. He pushes his chest up and down with both hands, and finally, after doing it for some time, he could feel the convulsion heave, the up and down of the chest under his hand, and he feels relieved. The child starts to gasp, and later on, the child cries finally. So he feels the relief after the birth of the baby. He leaves the baby with the mother and the midwife. It is almost 5 o'clock and it is light. It is light in the life of Joe Morgan and Susan Morgan. It is also daylight now. Miners are going back to their work. He is very tired, but he is satisfied. He has done something real at last. And in the end, he remarks, I've done something. Oh God, I've done something real at last. So, although in the beginning of the story, he had apprehensions about marriage and relationship, but in the end, he helps in reviving the baby, and he has seen the birth of a baby which comes out of a relationship only, and he feels relieved and satisfied that he has done something good. This real thing is bringing a life into this world. So, birth is a story of a doctor's struggle. Birth is such an important part of marriage. It shows how a doctor takes effort to bring a baby into this world. I hope you liked the video, and thank you for your love and support. Keep watching Learn English with Rajni Duo. Thank you.